Regina, and I have the extreme honor of introducing Bishop Nicolas Djomo from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He is the president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Congo. Bishop Djomo was part of a delegation of bishops from the Global South who met with our Canadian bishops last week at their conference meeting in Montreal. He is visiting Canada at the invitation of our bishops and Development and Peace, the Canadian Catholic Organization for Development and Peace, better known DNP. On Monday, he assisted with the official launch of the DNP Fall Campaign, which focuses on Canadian mining in the Global South. Bishop Djomo is an international lecturer and has spoken out repeatedly in regards to the human and environmental costs of irresponsible mining in Africa. Thank you very much for coming, and we are very honored to have you with us tonight.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, we were invited by 4 bishops from the Global South. One bishop from Latin America is Archbishop Pedro Ricardo Barreto from Peru. Another bishop came from Philippines, Bishop Jose Bantolo. And one had to come from Madagascar, but he couldn't get Canadian visa. It's too bad. Archbishop Odon Marie Astel and myself from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We have been invited by Development and Peace about the launching of the education campaign. The goal of this campaign is to give a voice to justice, a voice for justice. I came to Montreal last week, Thursday, and Friday we met all the bishops, Canadian bishops, not far from Montreal. They were for the annual meeting. And then we went to Montreal, and yesterday it was the launching of the campaign. So I have been sent here. The Filipino bishop went to Vancouver, and another bishop, French Canadian. So in the Congo, we don't speak English. We speak only French and African languages. I learned English when I became bishop. Wow. Almost old.
Yeah, you do well.
So my English is very limited. And you Canadians, you are supposed to speak the 2 languages. So, yeah, thank you for your interest. Yeah. Okay, as I said, we came to participate to the launch of the new campaign called A Voice for Justice, that is calling on the government of Canada to establish an independent ombudsman for the Canadian extractive sector that can investigate complaints brought by communities overseas where Canadian companies are operating. We have a lot of Canadian companies operating in the world. It's a good thing because they are bringing investments for different countries. And each of the 3 bishops we were invited to tell to the Canadians what is happening in local communities in our countries. Unfortunately, we don't have a map here. I tell you what is the situation in the Congo. The Congo is located just in the center of Africa. is Congo, Kinshasa. We have two Congos. The former Belgian Congo, it's mine, very huge, and the former French Congo, Congo Brazzaville, is smaller. And my diocese is located just in the center of the Congo. We have 47 dioceses, and we are 50 bishops. The Congo is the biggest Catholic country in the center of Africa. And the Congo has 60 million population. 60 million. Yeah. It's a huge country. The Congo, as you might know, has been at war for 5 years. It wasn't a civil war, but an aggression war from outside. It was since 1998 to 2003. And during the war, the country has been divided in diverse parts, occupied by different armed groups with different warlords. And during that time, many companies came from outside to sign contracts with different warlords. The warlords needed money to purchase weapons. So the contract has been signed during a troubled time. So the general situation is that these companies don't respect human rights. Often they have to displace people from the area, the displacement of populations, the deforestation, erosion of agricultural land, the pollution of water, the conflict, and sometimes sexual violence against the women because it's a conflict situation. So, the bishop from the south, we want Canadians to know that the precious minerals are being extracted and exported with promise that the required investment will bring development to the region. But it's not the case. It's not the case. Why not? Because the companies bring with them everything from outside to build factories, everything. They don't use local factories. They don't create employment. So people have to leave the areas without any compensation or any significant compensation. And these people would like the Canadians hear their voice. You can do something. You can act. Canadians, you are using the products of mining every day. Me too. From copper, silver, steel, cambium, to nickel, zinc, coltan. The coltan is coming right now from the Congo, in the eastern part of the Congo. And the coltan is used for the cell phone and for the computer. So all of us, we are using that mineral coming from the Congo. Mining products are in our cars, computer, screen, cell phone. And imagine that 75% of the world's mining companies are based here in Canada, in Toronto. 55 world mining companies. All of them are not Canadians originally, but they come from other countries because the laws are very good for them here. The protection, no prosecution here in Canada. So the Canada is dominant role player in extractive industry. Our communities are rich in natural resources, but we ask you to know that the citizens are trapped in poverty, and the natural resources, their richness is going out. That's why the bishops are calling for access to justice when standards are not respected by mining companies. That's why the bishops are speaking out to advocate everywhere on behalf of the communities we are serving. We are calling for a stronger voice for justice. And Development and Peace is launching a very interesting initiative. This initiative is to create an independent office called Ombudsman with power to act and to address complaints from affected communities from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia. Because there is a gap, people don't know where to go to present their complaints. In our own countries, there is not way to do it because our government has limited capacity to negotiate with multinational companies. They have a lot of money. And our countries are very weak. The corruption is huge. The companies use corruption to get lands for free exploitation. But you can change that situation. How to do it? As part of the campaign, you are invited to sign a message to your member of parliament asking that an ombudsman be put in place. Let me ask Judith to read this short text. What is required?
So this is the card that you will see in your pews when the campaign is launched, and this will mostly take place in mid-November. And would you like me to read the message? Okay. Oh, this part. It says, "A voice for justice, an ombudsman for responsible mining. Many communities in the Global South report that their rights are not respected and that their health and livelihoods are threatened by Canadian mining operations. In 2009, the Office of the Extractive Sector Corporate Social Responsibility, sometimes they call it CSR, this counselor was established to resolve conflicts between affected communities and Canadian extractive sector companies outside of Canada. Due to a weak mandate, the CSR counselor has been inadequate in resolving conflicts and has not provided effective remedy to communities. Canada needs an effective and an independent extractive sector ombudsman." Sure. So this is a little pamphlet that you might find in your bulletins the week before or around the time of the campaign. So how we can take action. Sign our action card, which calls for the creation of an independent ombudsman. Write or talk to your member of parliament about the issue. Ask your MP to support this campaign and to call on his or her caucus to work towards the creation of an ombudsman mechanism.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. We came for that, just for that. And the other, tell family and friends about what is happening in the Global South and ask them to sign an action card. Tell it to family and to your friends. Okay, that's just one introduction. Now, thanks to your questions, you can ask the questions. You can pick one side or another of my short presentation. Thank you so much. Do you have questions? Yeah.
I have one. Maybe Judy could. A couple of years ago, when was it we talked about? Remember, because it was Ombudsman's person,
Right.
And was that for Canadian mining as well? And all of a sudden, I was thinking of it tonight. And said, I remember when we did that. Was that one that helped create the office that didn't work, or what?
That's right. The office was created, the CSR, Social Responsibility Sector, was created, but it had no power. The mining companies could be investigated, but then they could withdraw from any negotiations if they so choose. And so this person's position will expire in, I believe it's 1 year from now, in September of 2014. So what the point is to try again to get an ombudsman, and apparently we're not allowed to use we tried using the word ombudsperson, but in the materials it was crossed out and put ombudsman. So anyway, so we're going to try again to get an ombudsman that actually has the power to make change. Now, if you really want to watch a 10-minute CBC documentary, all you have to do is go to the DEVP website and go to the fall education. And there it is. It's a little box with an arrow, like you're used to clicking. And it tells about how the CBC followed this, I forget her name. She was our CSR person, corporate social responsibility. She was investigating mines. And how she could she had a budget of around, I don't remember the numbers, but it's a short little clip, and how they followed her around. They tried to interview her, CBC, and she wouldn't be interviewed. But finally they followed her around and they talked to her. And in all the years that she has been the ombudsman, she had one court case, and it finally went nullified because the mining company withdrew. And she was still investigating another mining company. But she said the investigation was ongoing and she couldn't speak about it. So in all this time, he said to her, you mean, really, you haven't, really basically done anything? So it was a position that was sort of put up to say we're doing something. And so anyway, we are trying again to have this position created. So that's
with more power.
What goes with the legality of naming? You have to wait till after the court. It'd be interesting to know which of these companies are being investigated, which are in your area that there are problems. But is there? I'm sure there's a big legal thing about that. The name could be for slander and all this. And I think that's where you feel helpless, because you don't know who are these companies. And they're, with all their money, they're the ones that are protected, even though they're the ones that are doing this. Is there any way that, I'm just thinking if the people knew which companies, it would be good to know, but I don't know if you're allowed to know.
I think that the most thing to do it's not necessary to know that. The best thing to do is to help your lawmakers to create a new legal framework for them to respect human rights over there, to respect what they are doing there. The same companies are operating here in Canada.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Yeah. Why not to do the same in our countries? Just that. Just
So
that.
one thing, excuse me, we like to emphasize in this campaign is that development and peace is not against mining. You know, especially mining in Canada where there are standards. You know, I'm not saying there aren't problems, but I'm saying there are specific standards. People are not chased off their land. You know, the army surrounds some of these mines. I know I went to a presentation about Guatemala, a mine in Guatemala, and there was actually an army surrounded the mine to protect them because and people that worked at the mine, if they actually had a health problem or went back to the community and complained about the mining, they could go missing or be found drowned or whatever. These things actually happen. I was like really sad to hear that. But
So Bishop, are you saying that, did you say 55 or 75 of the percent of mining companies are based in Toronto?
Yeah.
What percentage did you say?
Yeah.
What percentage?
75.
75.
Yeah.
So that's they're based from there.
Yeah.
So
Here in Canada, especially in Toronto.
right.
Yeah.
So that's a big percentage, it seems.
It's
to
very
me.
big.
Yeah.
Very big.
Is it kind of like, I was just thinking when you said that, I was surprised as well. Because our laws are so easy,
So
because
easy.
is it like ships that, isn't it Libya? No, it isn't Libya. Liberia? Ships
yeah.
that
Yeah.
fly the Liberian
Yeah.
flag, even though,
Exactly.
so it's almost, that's amazing. So Canada in mining is what ships that have the Liberian
Yeah,
flag on
yeah,
it
yeah,
to ship it.
yeah.
Wow.
Which countries have better legal structures to deal with mining companies?
United States, for example, United States, they have very good laws. Yeah.
to deal
But-
with international mining companies.
Yeah, international. Imagine that most of them are using Canadian laws. That's the problem. 55%, and 25 only from other countries. But the biggest situation is here. But we need to change laws here, to make more regulation so the company can respect international laws.
So if the legal system in Canada for overseas mining was changed to what they do in the United States, it would be better. Is that right?
Yeah, would be better. Let me give you an example. In the Congo, in the eastern part, called the Kivu region, it's a mountain region. We have more than 30 armed groups over there. Since armed groups.
Armed groups.
Yeah, since the genocide in Rwanda. Do you remember the genocide in Rwanda?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. After the Hutu, it was between Tutsi and Hutu. When the Tutsi took the power, some Hutus militias fled to the Congo with armed. Since then, they are over there. How to survive is looting natural resources and sell them to the international companies. And we have other companies too, other active groups too, Congolese, even Congolese. And then our bishops' conference, we went to the United States, to the Congress, to ask the Congress to take a new law to protect, to make sure that when the American companies are buying minerals from the Congo, to make sure that minerals are not coming from the conflict region. And they did that. It's changing the situation for the population in the Kivu region. We went to Ottawa to ask for the same thing. Door closed. We can speak about that because our laws are different. Understood. But we can change that. If you sign this one. Last time it was 500 how many signs? I think it's 1.5 million.
500,000. Yes, I think
Yeah.
it was 500,000.
Exactly.
Canadians signed the card. But
Now, if you sign more and more, 1 million, 2 million, the government could change the laws in good direction, respecting human rights and justice for everybody, and everywhere in the world.
Is this campaign going outside of Catholic borders? Like
Yeah, it's for, yeah. You
outside of,
explain.
I mean, other, no.
Yes, it
Gang-
definitely can be expanded. I actually have in Regina, I don't know if you're familiar with the Peace Vigil group. I got Florence Stratton is in charge of it, and she actually attended your presentation at noon today. Bishop Djomo spoke at the university at noon today, and there was about 50 or 60 people there. The Jesuits hosted him at noon, and she emailed me immediately and said she is very, very interested in this, and she is going to work with the Peace Vigil to get the message out. You know, they hand out pamphlets at the noon hour on Thursdays, and so they're going to work with it. And so that's one thing that with this campaign, we're trying to get it spread right out there. You know, so if you happen to be in a circle, you're part of a parish, or maybe you're not, or maybe you have other circles that of involvement. You know, it's very easy to order these cards. You just order some cards, distribute them. And I think we really need to phone our MPs, you know. And there's some of us will be going out and trying to get visits. We actually were refused visits last year, and you know, some of the MPs have refused. But I think we just have to knock on the door and keep knocking on the door and say that we do not want to be part of this injustice, you know, because it's just so wrong. We need more regulations, and whether the ombudsperson is the answer or whether we just need really strong Canadian regulations for overseas mining, we need change.
Yeah.
So,
When we met with the bishops at the Santander, one of the bishops told us that it should be more interesting to get together with other denominations,
yes.
like an ecumenical commitment.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, that's a great idea, and I'm glad that's coming, you know, from the head office.
Yeah.
You said that the bishop that was supposed to come from Madagascar was refused a visa by the
Yeah.
Canadian government.
Yeah.
And I think, again, this is something, I think we're very naive in situations sometimes. You realize in things like this, you know, that he's coming to speak to the Canadian people, and he's refused a visa. And I know when it was
that's
World
too
Youth
bad.
Day in my institute, we had people from Laos and from Bolivia and Peru that we were going to sponsor to come, but they were rejected visas to come to World Youth Day. And I know that was a big issue when World Youth Day was in Toronto. But I don't know how many Canadians knew that. The young people were refused visas. And it's, you know, even that is an injustice I think most Canadian people are very naive about.
They give me visa because right now I'm the president of the Bishops' Conference. And they saw that I was coming here on behalf of 50 bishops.
Are there any countries that are becoming more responsible? Like any countries that own mine? that are mining internationally? Are there any of them that are becoming more to
Yeah,
human rights?
we are working with the European Union, and there are new regulations. Yeah, we went to Britain. They are interested. They are starting to reflect. Only Ottawa don't like to hear anything from us. That they will change thanks to you.
So is there some place where it's written down that this is what is happening in this mining place?
Yeah,
Because people are not going to believe it.
yeah. On there is a website, a lot of information.
Right. We have what they call
When you receive it.
these action sheets, and I haven't, we've ordered some, but I haven't got them yet. So, you know, it is unfortunate that I wouldn't have been able to get them in time for tonight, but this is what they call an action sheets, and it talks about different countries, Peru, Madagascar, Philippines,
Yeah.
and, you know, it gives the information, and this is what we will be ordering for, you know, everyone that parishes that take part.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a good time for me to say that on Saturday, October the 19th, there'll be a workshop here in Regina at St. Martin's Parish, and it will give the how-tos, how to run a campaign in your parish or how to run a campaign, you know, in your community. And we'll have, you know, the materials here. But every parish in the Archdiocese was mailed an order form.
We didn't get one. You've been waiting?
Okay, well, I will make sure that you...
We have our order in by now, usually we've gotten it.
So does anyone else know if their parish has ordered materials? Is anyone else here?
We got ours already.
You did, okay.
I think I ordered online.
But usually
Yes.
we get something telling us to order online, or we got nothing.
Okay. Well, you know
You
what?
can just go on.
But you
Yes,
can't
you
go
can,
online.
that's right.
Yeah, well, that's what we'll have to do.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
We don't think of it until it comes to us in the mail.
Right, right. So, well, tonight will be a reminder for us to, you know, talk to somebody at our parish, and if anyone can come, like from each parish, would be great if we had some representatives at the workshop. Bert Pitzel's also going to join us in the morning. He's from our Regina Archdiocese Social Justice Department. Unfortunately, he was called off to Edmonton for 3 or 4 days, or he would have been here tonight. But he's going to speak to us for a few minutes, in the morning for an hour or so about social justice leading into the Development and Peace campaign. And then Michael Murphy is going to come from Saskatoon and talk about the how-tos, what he calls the nuts and bolts of running a campaign. And so we'll have some of the materials on display for that day, and then we'll make sure everybody, he always brings another couple dozen of order forms, so anybody that doesn't have one, you know, can have it ordered online, and we're expected to run the campaign in November, before Advent.
Of the armed conflict in Eastern Congo improving by getting less than it was, or it's not improving at all?
Not yet right now, but we are hoping, because the UN decided to send a new brigade of there to combat the armed groups, and they began to combat that a bit, and we are hoping. But last year in February, they held a meeting in Addis Ababa, where 11 countries neighboring signed an agreement to do so that nobody can back the armed groups. But the best solution is that through the new regulations, as we are trying to do it in the United States, make so that we can cut off the funding to the armed groups. So they will lack money to purchase weapons and continue to fight and to commit atrocities against the population and to rape women. They receive too much money from the multinationals. This campaign is very interesting, even for the situation in the Eastern Congo.
The local governments of the third world countries, how much power do they have in allowing certain companies to come in, or do they have an idea what their standards are when they come, or is it just an economic thing? They say, well,
the problem is that our government are very weak, and they are very limited to negotiate with the multinationals. We are very powerful, and they have a lot of money. And often they use some ways, and our government in the weak country accept easily to sign contracts. Instead to receive at least 30% of the revenues, they receive, for example, just 2%. Especially when they sign the contracts during the war. So that right now the Catholic Church in the Congo, they are demanding to open all the contracts and to renegotiate them again in favor of the population and of the local government. So the civil society and the church, they are pushing on because the government is sometimes corrupted. Yeah, with the corruption, it's very difficult to move it forward. That's why the society, the church, in the Congo, the church is very strong, and we are speaking loud for that, to renegotiate the contracts.
So your relationship with the government is very good?
To say that is very good, that for them the church is too severe with them, too demanding with them. But we are speaking on behalf of the poor population. We are the voice of the voiceless.
So do these companies hire any of the people that live in that country, or they just bring in their own people and take out the stuff?
They hire some people, but it is not sufficient. No so many people. They are not hire many people.
So they have no intention of letting the Congolese people take over any part of this mining?
The mining industry is for our country, for any countries. It's a good opportunity. It's a good opportunity. It should help the country to move forward, but they have to change practices. Instead to bring everything from the Canada, they can make something locally to give jobs to the people. Yeah, but it's not the case.
Is there more mining getting developed, or they're exploiting what is there and there's nothing?
They export no transformation. If they do, if they could make some transformation locally, it's possible to give jobs to people. But everything is transformed. The transformation is made outside of the Congo. It's not only Congo, but the South Latin America is the same. Madagascar, Philippines, the same practices.
So the local people are more of a nuisance to the companies than an aid to the companies.
Yeah. It's immoral. There's no ethics inside.
As I recall, our Prime Minister visited a country in Latin America just recently to promote mining. And I think there was a controversy over the fact that he was not addressing any social justice issues at all.
Bishop, I read a book by Samantha Nutt called Damned Nations. And she talks about that coltan. And she said mostly it all comes from the Congo.
Yeah.
But she said that it's really not even sold from the Congo because it's actually smuggled out.
Yeah.
It's smuggled out by warring factions, and then it's sold at a great price so they can get their arms, and so the mining is fueling the war.
Exactly.
So I just was hard to believe that the coltan comes from the Congo, but the Congo doesn't even get the credit for it. Basically, it's smuggled out, and I'm not sure how that happens, but
yeah, that's true.
Environmentally, how, when the mine is finished, are the companies responsible at all environmentally? I know in a lot of places they are, because I wonder, in the Congo, just to respect the land and to take care of the land after the mine.
Nothing is done to protect the environment. Nothing. It's destruction on destruction. Deforestation, huge deforestation, and erosions. It's terrible. The pollution of water.
did you say you were part of a delegation that tried to speak to our federal government recently? Or was it on this trip or another?
Not this trip. We came to try to speak to the governments in Ottawa. There are 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yeah, and your colleagues from Development and Peace came with us to Ottawa, but unsuccessful.
Like they wouldn't listen to you, or they didn't believe you, or they just didn't care?
They don't care, because they told us that the Canadian laws don't allow them to speak about these questions.
So much for our lily white, we're supposed to be known as such a great country around the world. Reputation, that's the lily white reputation.
But things should change little by little. It's a battle for a long term.
As long as it's for the better and not for the worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
One part of campaign awareness too, which might be difficult with this part, is when you speak of mining, you're talking about a whole active industry, but it's maybe hard for people to connect with what mining does for them. They'll say, well, that's mining in that country, it's got to be something happening in that country. I mean, the clothing industry is a different one. We've had maybe some success with clothing industry because you have a label on your garment, that's where it's made, and they show pictures of the sweatshops and that. And so it was easy to say, you've got that garment in your hand that came from this place. That's the working conditions of those people. You really feel what you're doing by. But with mining, because I mean, we even named the one product there, which is part of the cell phone and computers.
Yeah.
But there's so much else more that goes into those cell phones and computers, and people, it's hard to say it was made somewhere, but where did all the parts come from?
Yeah.
And how do you affect their lives?
Yeah.
Because you
Exactly.
you just can't say, well, it isn't all from the country that says on the box where it was made. It's from all over, and at what cost can we use all that technology today? And maybe, if we say, well, let's have a computer-free week because none of this stuff that makes computers is from us, or it's been got, maybe there's some way to impact that people could realize this part of my life is costing others a lot.
Yeah.
We've done it with food, the done with clothes. I mean, there's other fair trade things, there's some that's starting to talk it, but this one is hard because I look at it, the thing and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if the work conditions of where it was made might be bad enough, but where all parts came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, what have I got to do with it? Kind of.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah.
There is a campaign which has been very successful from Liberia. They call it the blood diamond.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
very successful.
So what, are there actually some ethical mining companies that come into the Congo that are actually, you can say they're ethical? There are some?
Yeah, it has to be done to make a kind of a certification,
Mhm.
so people can know that coltan is coming from the Congo. It's flowing in conflict and violence.
So you talked earlier about the local government,
Yeah.
like not having regulations and stuff for these people coming in and they're doing this. And you talked about because they're just like they're weak or whatever, right? So what can be done to help the local government to step
Yeah,
up? And
that's
say,
that's a very, very important problem. Our government to have to change, to improve the governance, more democracy, more rule of law, more transparency, to combat the corruptions. All this is very important to make the state strong and to negotiate with miners company in the favor of the population. They have to change to become more strong by transparency, by good governance, by fighting the corruptions. It's their duty to.
yeah, put regulations in place and stuff.
Absolutely.
But you can't come in here if you're going to do this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Canada does that. And so we just need to be able to get that happening down there.
Mhm.
So is the objective of this campaign to apply to Canadian mining companies the same standards when they're operating internationally as they apply in Canada?
Progressively, that's the justice. To do the same they are doing here anywhere. That's the goal, the final goal. But right now is to change little by little the regulations, the laws. No way to get everything at the same time, but to change little by little.
I was thinking some of the mining companies, like the fact that you're not allowed to use asbestos in Canada, but the Canadian asbestos mining companies can mine it and sell it to other countries. You know, that this is something that a health risk, it's wrong, but we're going to sell it to you. And that's a reality. Canadian mining companies from Canada. That's
The one thing that becomes a problem is that I think with the current government, there's an ideology there about natural resources. I think what they're trying to do with the oil industry is change the environmental protection, the evaluations to make it easier for oil companies to do what they want. And if you look at what they're doing in the oil industry, you can see why they're not taking any action around the world, because we're starting to feel like here in Canada, there's a real debate about how much power the oil companies have. And our Prime Minister is from Alberta, a very, very rich oil-producing province.
Yeah.
And they're trying to change some of the regulations about how you ship oil, make it easier for the oil companies. So we're starting to feel that here in Canada ourselves, that we're up against a brick wall in a lot of cases. They're not very sympathetic.
Good example of that is the tar sand.
yeah.
You're starting to have oil in your country, right?
Or it's few, it's not significant.
Yeah. Yeah, but they're starting, like, there was exploration in Lake Albert.
In Lake Albert, yeah. Yeah. Lake Albert, yeah.
And there was a
exploitation.
Good find there, I believe.
Not in They didn't start to make exploration.
No?
Not yet.
You're doing it in Uganda,
The
but-
Uganda side is done.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's done, but not yet from our side. But I don't know. It will be very costly because it's isolated. It's remote. Very remote. Okay. Thank you very much for your contribution to the discussion. Hoping that you will speak about it to your friends, your families. So in November, you will
Yes.
distribute the...
Yes, well, in October, there's the workshop. You can go on the Development of Peace website, and you could watch that video, and then you have something, to talk about how this corporate social responsibility position just was not effective, and we want someone with clout, someone that has power, and we want our government to make changes with regulations with Canadian mining companies where they go. So anyway, I think we all feel inspired, and we thank you very much for taking time this evening to speak to us. So
Thank you very much. See you next time, and may God bless you.
Please stay around for some goodies and just talking.
And I just thank you very much, Marion and Agnes, and others from Holy Child are here.